like to call this public hearing to order. This public hearing is being convened pursuant to Section 464 of the Local Government Act. At this public hearing, the public will be allowed to make representations to council, and all persons present who believe that their interests are affected by the proposed bylaw shall be given the opportunity to address council or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the proposed bylaw. Those of you who wish to speak concerning this proposed bylaw should commence with your address to council by clearly stating your name and address. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposed bylaw. The speakers list has been established, and it's in the entrance. There's a speakers list at the entrance. You can add your name to the list at any time. Each speaker's initial presentation will be limited to 5 minutes, provided the comments are relevant to the issues at hand and the hearing is not being obstructed. The initial time limit is to allow everyone a fair opportunity to address council respecting the proposed bylaw amendment. After everyone on the speakers list has spoken once, speakers will be allowed a supplementary 3-minute presentation, which will be limited to additional comments to what was previously presented, so that everyone that wishes to speak may. In your supplementary presentation, please do not repeat the comments made in your initial presentation. Please observe the rules. If you have any concerns with the manner in which the hearing is conducted, you can direct your comments to myself, the chair. Members of council may, if they wish, ask questions of you following your presentation. However, the main function of council today is to listen to the views of the public. It's not the function of council in this public hearing to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with individual citizens. Everyone shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard at this meeting. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making his or her views heard. In considering the proposed bylaw, council has received documents which may influence its decision. These documents are available for review in a binder located at the sign-in table or alternatively on the city's website. Before we begin, I'd like to ask the corporate officer to confirm that all due process was followed according to the Local Government Act.
Worship, yes, all due process was followed. I did receive 9 more submissions after the 12 o'clock deadline, and I have 6 for and 3 against.
Again, we have a speakers list set up at the front. When I go through the speakers list, I will be asking for anyone from the floor, and I'll be asking a minimum of 3 times. And we're going to start off this public hearing with comments from Mr. Evans, who is here. David, would you like to come to the mic?
Hi. Hello to those of you who don't know me. My name is David Evans, and I'm the developer of Mackenzie Village.
Can I hear you?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start again. To those of you who don't know me, my name is David Evans, and I'm the developer of Mackenzie Village proposal in front of you today. My wife and I have been coming to Revelstoke for the past 10 years and moved here full-time 2 years ago. We have 5 children between us and 3 grandchildren. We live on Catholic Road and are proud to call Revelstoke our home. We see tremendous opportunity in Revelstoke and want to be part of the city's growth over the next 10 to 20 years as it develops into a thriving, sustainable mountain town, providing a variety of new, high-quality housing options, creating jobs and allowing many new people to call Revelstoke home and enjoy the very same natural beauty that those early settlers discovered back in the 1880s and captured our hearts 10 years ago. I realise the rezoning proposal in front of Mayor and Council today is a lot to take in. For many people, it's a large and complex proposal. It's only in human nature to react to change and complex problems initially with objection. The rezoning application, as you see today, has been in the public domain for well over a year, and I've supplied as much information as I can at the request of city staff, Mayor, Council, and as a result of the substantial responses received at last year's open house. The concerns from local residents last year and the comments received are the same as the concerns that we're hearing this year. As a result of the public hearing, I was requested to make certain changes to my proposal, which I have done, and carry out additional studies to support the further progress of this application. The major concerns at the open house in April of last year related to traffic, sewer capacity and development costs. While reading through the engineering reports isn't everyone's idea of a good time, they do show that Mackenzie Village is capable of being built out over the next 10 to 15 years without negatively impacting the city. Additionally, Mackenzie Village will contribute almost $8 million in development cost charges, which the city can set aside for improvements to those roads, sewers and water systems. During the last few days, concerns have been published and I have responded to as many of these as possible. The most frequent and common of these concerns are again with regard to the sewer, roads, density, who will buy, what about the value of our existing homes, how long will it take to build, and the now unfortunate famous vacation slum comments, and how will I build it. So I have answered the majority of those questions. I think the council have those. Hopefully the people who put those in have them. I'd like to thank everyone for attending now, and I look forward to hearing more comments from people from the floor and addressing those as they come up. Okay, thank you.
The first person I have on the speakers list is Fraser Blight.
How's that? Can everyone hear me? No?
Close to the mic.
All right. How about that? Your Worship, members of City Council and residents, my name is Fraser Blight. I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of David Evans. I'm a resident, a planner, and urban designer, and I live in town. And I've been hired by David to help him work through this project. I understand how complex the proposal is. Planning projects are always extremely complex, and projects of this size are never simple. There are so many things to consider when making your decision, and I appreciate that if you as council would take the time to review all the materials we've sent you over the last year and a bit and ask questions. And we look forward to hearing the opinions of residents. I'd like to talk about why I believe that the approval of this project will be a benefit to Revelstoke. There are 5 major benefits that I'll focus on. Number 1, it provides a variety of housing types, unit sizes, and a choice of housing for people. Higher density means the development can cover the cost of servicing the infrastructure. The development will provide well-built, well-designed buildings and public spaces. It'll have a mixed-use neighborhood node, and it integrates many environmental design principles and best practices. So why is a variety of housing important? Mainly it provides choice. Currently, as a resident with a young family and looking to buy a home in Revelstoke, my choice is either to buy an aging single-family home that will require substantial additional investment, or to buy a new single-family home that is far beyond my price range. From a planning perspective, single-use zoning, or only allowing one type of house in one area, is a relic of past planning, one that the profession has come to realize hasn't worked well. It's increased our reliance on the automobile and created a whole host of other social and environmental problems. Planning now advocates, as does our own official community plan, integrating different unit types and sizes into each neighborhood, including commercial services with a small mixed-use node. The variety of housing is achieved through the proposed flexible zone. It means that after building the initial phases, future phases can respond to demand by building the types of houses that people want to buy. It is the reason, this flexible zoning and density means that the only housing that will be built is the kind that people will buy. Higher density means that the development can offer a variety of housing units, as mentioned, but it also means it can afford to pay for the services it requires. The planning profession has long known that most single-family residential development cannot cover the costs required to service it. Higher density means there are more units contributing to roughly the same infrastructure. I think this is the key to understanding the impacts on our long-term financial sustainability as a community. I know that apartments and houses don't elicit a positive reaction from many in Revelstoke. I think we could use some better examples in town. This project started with a set of design principles to illustrate that higher density doesn't drive down surrounding property values, but can help to sustain and raise them. The key to effective and appropriate higher density is in how it's designed. David and I have compiled a set of character images on the back boards that hopefully allow people to see the quality and types of apartments, townhouses, and duplexes, public space, and mixed-use buildings being proposed by focusing on high quality of architectural urban design and rezoning at a high standard. Integrating mixed-use neighborhood commercial into Arrow Heights is supported in Revelstoke's official community plan and is consistent with planning best practices of providing walkable, locally owned neighborhood scale commercial services in each neighborhood. These neighborhood scale commercial services may consist of a small coffee shop, neighborhood pub, home office, or similar services on the ground floor of the apartments above.
Speak into the microphone, please, Fraser.
Yep. I'll put it up a bit higher. The mixed-use component is about providing the choice to walk or bike rather than to take your car. Some people may wish to continue driving downtown for those services, but I believe many will value the ability to be able to walk. And finally, I'd like to talk about the opportunity this development represents to create a truly sustainable neighborhood right here in Revelstoke, one that would be the envy of many small or large cities in Canada and attract many young people to the community. This development integrates many sustainable design practices, such as a potential district biomass system using locally sourced wood, new energy efficient buildings that reduce the community's impact on greenhouse gas emissions, walkable and bikeable pathways that reduce the need to use a car and provide healthy transportation options, native landscaping and local building materials that integrate the natural environment, reduce water use, reduce shipping costs, and help define the local vernacular. Dark sky lighting to reduce impacts on birds and human health, natural stormwater treatment, and many others that reduce our community's impact on the natural environment. As someone who is especially concerned with these sustainable design issues, I'm happy to see that these design considerations are being proposed in this development. In summary, change is inevitable. It's often scary and uncertain. As a community, we need to be open to change. We must actively manage change to ensure that it has a positive effect. A community that never changes, that never progresses, is, in my opinion, setting itself up for future failure. I appreciate your thoughtful consideration of this result.
Thank you, Fraser. The next person on the list is Todd Arthurs. Todd, make sure you speak directly into the microphone, please.
Yeah, Todd free. So my name is Todd Arthurs. I'm writing this letter in support of the proposed Mackenzie Village development in Narrow Heights. I've lived and loved my 35 years in beautiful Revelstoke. I've raised 2 kids and proud to be part of this wonderful community. Many changes have happened in my time here, but when I look back from where I came with Banff and Canmore and back in Toronto originally, and I look at, they're barely recognizable. When I go back now, Revelstoke still has a lot of what we came here in 1981. I've seen 6 schools close, and I've seen 2 new ones be built. I've seen approximately 1,000 less people in the community. That's living in the community and not including the dam workers. And today there's lots of amenities and stores that weren't here at the time, and that's where I changed. I've been on committees with attempts to try and attract business, attract population, to increase our tax base. We constantly struggle with that in Revelstoke, trying to have enough people to provide what tax base for what we really need and want. I've seen leaders of the community leave, sometimes by choice, sometimes for health reasons, sometimes employment reasons, and sometimes they just couldn't find the right accommodation when they downsized, and on they went. The exciting and rewarding part is the fresh, vibrant newcomers that have arrived to Revelstoke, and they're proud to call Revelstoke their home, and they're making it better than what it was, and buying into the neighborhood that we have created. And to me, that's the most exciting part of what I've seen in the last few years. Since the dam days in the early 80s, Revelstoke's had a challenge trying to attract jobs, and we actively targeted that, and probably not overly successfully. We've been a boom or bust town. It's just been our history from way back in the railroad days. I've seen taxes higher than most communities. I've seen vacancy rates go to record lows, and I've seen housing prices fluctuate hugely. I haven't seen an apartment built since the 80s, except for Selkirk Gardens. And from a planning perspective, as I understand, if you're not growing, and this is personal and in business, and if you're not growing, then you're dying. Revelstoke's far from dying, but we need to move forward. Do I feel that our real estate market needs new, diverse housing stock designed to meet the needs of the retirees, young families, and individuals, investors? Absolutely yes. Do new, affordable, extensively renovated homes sell? You bet they do. We just don't have enough of them. Our inventory is usually older. The beauty of this proposed new plan is that these developers realize that the market will dictate what sells and what price people will pay. The flexibility of design can be tailored to the market needs as outlined in the Mackenzie Village design. I have learned that as much as we may try, the market is dictated by supply and demand from buyers and sellers. Maybe the odd insurance company too. We have elected a capable municipal government who has the best interest of the town at heart. They have required David and Shelley Evans to provide us a variety of studies and plans. Almost 2 years in the making, the city, with public input, we have a plan with core design principles that makes this development economically, environmentally, and socially sustainable. The Revelstoke housing market has had a void of new development for years, and our inventory of older homes just does not meet the demand of many buyers in today's market. The allure of building new homes is considered by many buyers. In reality, the economies of scale of building, it gets ruled out regularly as just too expensive and not efficient to build one single home. And I venture to say since 1985, most of the new houses that have been built are built by one guy developer that's going to live in it. Revelstoke is a beautiful place with our natural surroundings and the quality people as our biggest attributes. I get told repeatedly in my job how lucky I am to live here and able to earn a living. And if we could have a job, we would be here. And it's frustrating because you hear it all the time, and employment is an issue. Mackenzie Village is not an industry, but it will attract new, keen people that do want to live here, providing them with affordable alternatives for housing and growth in the future. I look forward to the day when my kids can come home and buy a house in Revelstoke and raise their families here. I look forward to the day when my mother-in-law, who was forced to leave Revelstoke in the mid-90s for employment, can come by and come back and be with the family and live in something that would maybe make what we got here as a plan. I look forward to the time when the sustainable population allows the kids to play baseball or hockey without having to sign up in Salmon Arm or Vernon because there just isn't enough registration in town. Please remember that we're still a small town with only 120 single-family MLS sales on a very good year. So the market, the economy, the quality of the Mackenzie Village proposal will dictate the speed of the development, and it won't happen overnight. But please, do the right thing. Let's see some growth in this town. Thank you.
The next speaker I have on the list is Peter Humphreys.
Hi, my name is Peter Humphreys. I felt I needed to come tonight to reflect my positive view on this after reading some negative reviews online. I feel I'm giving the opinion of just the average citizen. When I look at this development, I see this as what the future is for Revelstoke, the way I want to see Revelstoke. I think the location is excellent. There's a school right next to it, elementary school. Children can walk to school instead of taking the bus. The commercial portion of it, I think, to be able to walk to the convenience store like a lot of us did when we were kids is a positive for me. The mixed density I find to be crucial to it. Most of us in this room can't afford the single-family lots that are at the ski hill, and this is the future. If I look at when I moved to Revelstoke, I was lucky enough to pay $80,000 for my single-family house. That's not going to happen anymore. That's not the reality. The higher density is required to make that affordable, and that's where I know people are going to move to. But the biggest part of it is the people that it draws in. There's the economic aspects of it, and we're going to hear lots of that. We've heard of that. It's the vibrant people that come into town, the ones that have this view of the Revelstoke. As Todd said, we're lucky to live here. I think when we've lived here for so long, we lose vision of that, and it's those newcomers that are crucial to bringing us back to why we live here. And I think this development reflects it, so I'm in favor of it.
Thanks, Peter. I just want to remind everybody again that we do have a speakers list that's forming in the back, and once we've gone through the speakers list, I'll be opening up the microphones to those that feel so inclined to talk to us. Next person I have on the list is Judy Goodman.
Hello, thank you. So my name is Judy Goodman. I'm also the Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce, and we have sent a letter in from the Chamber. I wanted to highlight some of the things from that letter. We are supportive of this development for several reasons. A lot of them have already been said, but one thing I think is really important is that multifamily projects, and we call them high density because they are, and that's not a scary word, they offer economic, environmental, and aesthetic advantages. And they're also part of our OCP. In our OCP it says we should be moving towards this direction of more density building. Many new home buyers are looking for options of smaller spaces, multi-family homes, multi-suites that are built to code, that they can have a up-and-down duplex or a side-by-side duplex and help pay for their mortgage and that kind of thing. And of course, new development is new tax revenue, and everyone said that. I really want to focus on the issue of vacation rentals, because we know that it's a concern in our community. The city staff have worked very hard to come up with a policy to try and manage this, and it's not an easy thing to manage. We have been working with the Accommodation Association to try and talk to other communities. Everybody's struggling with this issue. The one thing about this, though, and the huge benefit, is that if this included vacation rentals, which is part of the plan, it would legalize within the strata, and there would be strata rules. So within the strata, when people buy in, they know that this is part of a multi-development. And if you're going to have a vacation rental, here's the rules you have to live by. And a 24/7 management company is going to manage those rules, and if you break them, you get fined. And everybody's in it to be in the same neighborhood. And it's very different than how we're doing it now, when we're saying, oh, well, you can apply for a vacation rental in an already existing neighborhood. And we know that that's happening, and we know that we need to deal with that. But in this case, it would make it much easier to deal with. And lots of home buyers want that, they want the management and control of aesthetics and everything else. And that's why they buy into these multifamily units. And just to, again, say, these developers aren't going to go and develop a whole bunch of stuff that nobody wants. It's going to be market-driven. It's supply and demand. And then lastly, I just wanted to comment on the developers, David and Shelley Evans. They have been members of the Chamber since shortly after they arrived in our community. Shelley was a director on the chamber board in another community, and they're very aware of corporate citizenship. They've participated in chamber events. They've been working with the business community to provide information and accept feedback. They've asked people for feedback on this, and again, I think David alluded to this. It's been just over a year that this has been going on. And they want to work with us on tourism marketing for vacation rentals and coming up with that strata agreement and making it a betterment for our entire community. So, yeah, I think it's really important that we have something like this so that we can attract young families and mountain lifestyle seekers that want that different lifestyle.
Thanks, Judy. The next person I have on the speaker's list is George Bueller.
Can I go later?
I only have two other names on the list, George, so that means that you go now or you go third. It's up to you. I'd be happy to boot you to the
Well,
end of
the
the
things
gym.
that I was going to say are being said. I'll wait till everybody else has said what they're going to say, and then I'll just add a few things.
George would like to offer his spot to Derek Whammy. Derek?
Hello, can you hear me? Council, David and Shelley, thank you very much for having us here and giving us this opportunity to speak about this very important issue. I live at 1915 Hay Road. I built a house with my wife and my family 3 years ago in a R1 zoned property that borders David Evans' property and this development. I think that this development negatively affects my property and my neighbors' properties and my future family and how we are going to, how I'm going to raise my family in this community. I believe that the subsections, zonings that they've put forward, A through F, not a single one of their subsections actually goes along with a single zoning bylaw that the city has put forward with R1, R2, R3, R4. Even with their commercial unit on Nickel Road, they want to do commercial with residential. And the challenge is with this proposal, as nice as it looks and as clear and straightforward and forthcoming that David and Shelley really are, and again, we're allowing the developers to how do I say, dictate how our communities are going to be built. I think that's the role of the citizens of Revelstoke. I think that's the role of the citizens of council and the mayor, and you are elected by the people. And I find that the subsections that they have, if I may go back, they're asking to rewrite the zonings to fit their particular needs. They don't actually conform to what we have put forward. There are many examples. In essence, they're section A and B, which is on Nickel Road, which is commercial and residential. They want to be able to put approximately 200 or 400 units per hectare. And that just goes against what is allowed in like a commercial zoned property. I believe it's maximum 200. I think it starts at 120. And then as far as the high density and the subsections C, and I guess C is being the next highest dense area, that would typically be an R4 zoning. And that R4 zoning only allows, it's I think 120 units per hectare. And they're asking for, if I look at it here in the papers, they're asking for a considerable amount more, up to 400 units per hectare. And that's just, it's not in line with what is actually written in the code or in the bylaws. And I think that council needs to seriously consider rejecting this proposal as it is. And I'm not going to say they shouldn't come back and re-present the proposal that fits more in line with the bylaws that we actually have.
I think the density is, again, as most people will understand, it's too dense. There's too many people. There's too many sections of traffic and sewer issues that still haven't been answered. With the proposal of the roads that he wants to do, narrow roads with, sort of English style, if I may quote what I've heard. That doesn't allow for proper snow clearing. Where does the snow go? And also with the vehicles. To be honest, if this becomes a high-density vacation rental area, you're going to have a high flow of traffic. Yes, they're selling it as, this is a foot into the door for real estate for people to buy, smaller units, but the reality is this is going to be a high vacation rental place, and a lot of these people that are going to come, they're going to be traveling to Revelstoke for a week or a weekend or a week, and they are going to be driving. And this whole subdivision is going to be dependent on a lot of cars. If it's 1,200 units, that's 1,200 cars that you got to account for, if not 2,400 cars, because every unit, every family I know has 2 cars. And as well as my main concern being personally affected by this proposal, which I hope council will consider, the subsection F, which borders my property on Hay Road and my neighbors. It is written in this proposal that they're requesting to change the rear setback of that zoning, which subsection, which actually doesn't even clarify it's an R3 zoning. They are requesting to change that rear setback to 1 meter. Now that, everyone has to agree, is 3 feet, and that is ridiculous on my backyard when I have an R1 zoning and my rear setback is 7.6 meters. I would only suspect, and I would hope that they would respect my personal space and boundaries, that they would at least, with that sub-F section, would allow that section to be R1 zoning as well, which they would then create a much more natural buffer to the high density that they want to do inside their property. And final note, an R4 zoning, from what I've seen in the bylaws, does not allow for vacation rentals. If I'm mistaken, please let me know. There's a lot of reasons why I feel that this should not be approved based on what this proposal is here and now. I'm not saying that they can't come back and re-present the proposal. I do believe in some higher density, but not this higher density. And for that reason, I ask you, the council, and the rest of the city to get behind this and say no to this proposal as it stands. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Derek. I don't want to get into back and forth and debating different comments, but there is a misconception that this development will be built to 1 meter from the property line, and that's just not the case. And Dean will correct me if I'm wrong, but the 1 meter setback is from the common area space. So the 1 meter is the strata property. Then you have the public space, which could be roads, pathways, green space. So setbacks from neighbors' property lines is going to be consistent 4 to 6 meters? 4 to 6 meters. So I just want to clarify. And again, Derek, I just want to point out, because there are a lot of people think that, but that is not the case. And I don't want to get into, I know that you like.
It says principal building, 1 meter rear setback. That's the building.
That's why you said
the property. 1 meter.
Of the strata property line.
Even if it's a district and it's 4 to 6 meters, that still doesn't go along with 7.6 and the R1 zoning actually.
I just wanted to clarify that one point. Sorry, I didn't hear that. Next person I have on the list, I'm not sure, I didn't respond, who's going to speak or not, is Peter Burnett. Looking for a big cowboy hat. Oh, there it is.
Good evening. My name is Peter Bernanke, and thank you to council and the mayor for having this session. I just want to address more the background of David Evans.
Just stay as close to the mic as you can.
Yeah. David and Shelley come in here in good faith. First they buy some land, build a home. Like the real true settlers, they built a little bit out of town, got the horses, you know, they're just a down-to-earth people. And they decided to buy some more land and develop it, and make our community grow. I know David and Shelley for the last 2 years or so, and they participate in all the events in town to make it more prosperous and make things happen in town. And the way I see it, it will. And and I can understand some of the people may be concerned in that neighborhood, not in my backyard is the term to use. And it's always scary when you see hear new buildings come in. You could always say that, and I believe in all honesty that David and Shelley this is going to go down as probably one of the better build-outs in our community. And after it starts going, then we'll figure what should have been done a long time ago. Because it'll be affordable to a lot of young people, like was mentioned by the speakers previous. And the young families can move in and afford it. And but anyhow, good luck to the council, and I hope they'll make the right decision. And we need the tax base, and we need the work in town. Our workforce in town is depleting, and if it wasn't for the railroad and the mill, you know, we probably wouldn't even need council pretty soon. You know, we'd like. So we got to have a build out with you guys, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter. George Bueller.
About time somebody screwed this thing up a little bit. How's that? Anyways, a lot of the things that I've thought about and that have been said, I'm definitely for this project. As a matter of fact, I used to own that property before a couple of guys, I sold it to another guy and he sold it to David. Anyways, and I was going to develop it. I was thinking of developing it, and it's a good thing that I didn't get started, because I was always concerned that I wasn't going to live long enough to be able to finish it. Anyways, I think this project is a good project in that it will send a message to the community, the business community out there that's willing to come into Revelstoke and to invest, that we are, in fact, not as bad as everybody thinks we are. You know, I get out in the street and, you know, I hear these comments day after day. It's almost like I'm being pounded about how bad we treat people that come in here to invest. And I think we need to change that image. Let's start inviting them here and allowing them here to do their thing, whatever it may be. In this case, it's development, housing development. In some cases, it's been other things. And we seem to have, we fight them tooth and nail, maybe not even so much council, but the staff itself. Just every nitpicking thing, you know, let's get on with it. And invite these people and change our image in Revelstoke. I don't know how much I can stress that, but I guess you guys are probably hearing it as well as I am. I'm sure you are hearing it, and I'm sure lots of others are hearing it as well. So my thought is that we need to change our image here in Revelstoke. I hope that I can see that before I'm no longer here. I'm getting up there, so now I don't have a lot of years left to to finally realize that maybe. So I hope in my time that we can see this change. Thank you for my.
Thanks, George. Next person on the speakers list is Gordon Murray.
Coming up after all the tall guys here. So it's interesting to me that all the people that are speaking in favor of this project are the ones that don't have to live beside it. But Todd's a real estate guy, so he's going to make money selling houses, and Peter's a builder, so of course he's going to be in favor of it, but doesn't have to live beside it. Anybody who's a contractor or builder is going to be in favor of it. The people that have to live beside it have a different view of it. I live on 1877 Upper McKinnon, so I'm right adjacent to it. I brought my family up here. We've lived here for 28 years. We bought our property because we liked the neighborhood, the character of the neighborhood, the zoning was R1, big properties, and people are saying that the community plan provides for this. Well, I read the community plan, and under the community plan, that area is zoned R1. And it also says in the community plan that the character of the neighborhoods are to be preserved. And this is going to dramatically change the character of the neighborhood. I looked at the demographics in Revelstoke. There's 3,100 houses or homes in Revelstoke. This is going to add 1,200. So that little postage stamp area, there's going to be a third, again, as many houses in that one little postage stamp. Again, using the demographic of 2.9 people per household, that means in that little postage stamp, there's going to be about 3,600 people, about 2,000 cars going up and down our road that aren't going up and down there now. We bought our property because of the character of the neighborhood, and we don't want to see a high-density vacation rental with the cars zooming up and down the streets. And we can't even get up the street because they're so narrow. There's no parking. So the people that should be listened to are the people that have to live by it.
Thanks, Gordon. The next person on the list is Vicki Haynes.
I wasn't expecting there to be so few comments. I thought I'd be way down the list. But my husband Russell and I have lived in Revelstoke for 3 years, so we're relatively newcomers. And we built a lovely house on the corner of Hay Road and Nickel in 1931. And I think it's probably the worst place to live for this development, because I think our backyard would be looking at all of the dumpsters behind all of the retail spaces. So that's a little bit heartbreaking for us on a personal level, and I guess we'll see what happens there. I feel like it's a really good idea on so many levels, in the wrong place, and I would really encourage council to think about the other spaces in our community that need this development, like the lot for the Mountain View School and the lot across from the Southside School. I know those are owned by the schoolyard. I know David got a great I don't understand why we would build all of these houses really far away from downtown, where you can actually walk to downtown to utilize all of our downtown businesses. I'd like to see the city take a much more active role with the really neat, really cool ideas that the Evanses have about high-density building, but let's direct the process as a city a little bit more. I'd like to see the city broker a deal with the school boards of those lots in other areas where we could maybe put a third of this development up on Mackenzie Landing, how about a third on the Mountain View School lot, and a third on the school lot across from Southside Grocery. Just parcel it out, make it less dense. I don't want to look at dumpsters. Sorry.
to again remind everybody that we have a speakers list that's going at the entrance here in the back. And if they would like to speak, again, I will be, after it goes into the speakers list, we'll be opening up the mic for those that want to come and talk to us. Next person I have is Rebecca Jenkins.
Please speak into the mic.
Fairly popular topic. Thank you for having this event. I've known David and Shelley for, I guess, only about 6 months now. My husband and I have lived here for 3 years and have had an opportunity to interact with them. We built a home in, I guess it's Upper Arrow Heights. So I am at least within a close proximity to this project. When we first bought our property in 2007, we knew that this area was going to have lots of high density components to it, and we were excited by that. But as a business owner now, I think that the piece that we need to focus on is actually the people that will live in these projects, because there are 2 pieces. I need employees for my businesses, and I know that it's really difficult to find housing for young families. That's one piece. But the other piece is that in all of the people that will live in this development, think about what they'll contribute to our community. Like, we'll have business owners, we'll have teachers, we'll have kids that will innovate and bring new businesses here. The possibilities are endless. We need high density projects so that we can create an environment here where people can actually stay and make a living and raise their families. I know a lot of people don't want these projects because they don't want the community to change and the characteristics of the community to change. But at the same time, their kids are having to leave the community to go to other communities to look for jobs, or because they can't afford to buy their own house. So I'd love to see that change from that aspect. The other aspect that I'd like to see that change is, as a business owner that is, let's say, pained by the high business taxes in this community, the easiest way to fix that problem without causing other taxes to raise is to increase our tax base by bringing more businesses to this community. And without having more developments like this, I just don't, as a business owner, I don't see it happening. I can do it because I live here, but where are my employees going to live? Right now, I hear that even our new city inspector doesn't have anywhere to live and can't find anywhere to live. Like, that's ridiculous. It's one guy. You know, I'm sure he has a bedroom in somebody's house, but that's not a viable family project. So I'd love for the community to embrace projects like this, to be able to go forward and really make this a sustainable place that we can know and love, that we do already, but that it can really grow and incorporate more people. So thank you for considering.
Thanks, Rebecca. The next name that I have on the list is Gilles Lucier.
Good evening, everyone. I think at public hearings such as this, number one, it's good to get everyone's opinion, but at the same time, the lines of questioning or lines of thought can sometimes get skewed off topic. And I'm sure Mr. Evans is a swell fellow, as has been pointed out, but this isn't a character reference or a job interview. What we're looking at is the merits of the proposal as it is written up. And so, and with that, there's also the topic of, do we want Revelstoke to grow, yes or no? Do we want low-cost housing, yes or no? And those are good questions to ask, but at the same time, those who might be opposed to how this is written are not necessarily opposed to Revelstoke's growth or the offering of low-cost housing. So I think for us personally, much like some other speakers, moved into the area, and before we moved into the area, researched what the city plans were, the plans for zoning, for park space, for trails, etc. And in a lot of ways, if this were to go ahead as drafted, it's pulling the rug out from a number of us that actually do our homework and see what the city has planned. Our family did supply a letter to council that I'm confident they'll read, but I'm not going to reread the whole thing. More, I'll just address some of the comments that were brought forward here today. With regard, on full disclosure, I am an engineer, and some of us do enjoy reading engineering reports. And the conclusion that I came to after reading it was not, as suggested tonight, that there was no negative impact. To consume all available capacity remaining on Airport Way and Nickel, I think is a negative impact. The plans really don't properly address traffic movement at intersections or laneways, and don't take it into account at all cyclists and pedestrians. And again, contrary to some of the speakers tonight, those of us who are in Narrow Heights now, we do cycle and we do walk. And this is not the only way to bring pedestrians and cyclists into the area. We exist. And so there's going to be a serious impact not only to motorists but to cyclists who use those roads now. If you're a cyclist and you're coming up from the ridge when it's busy, just imagine double that. And of course our children go to and from Arrow Heights School, and this development will be a big impact to them and all the other children that are cycling or walking now. With regard to the paths for cycling or walking, I read in the documentation that it would be a credit as park space, which I know many developers, from my experience, like to propose. But at the same time, if the corridors that are provided for motorists are only 6 meters wide in a lot of cases, you actually need those pathways as a transportation corridor. So to offer it up as credit for park space, I think is a little generous on the city's part. And with regard to those narrow roads, I think it's been conceded that a big portion of these units will be rented out. And as we've seen, a lot of the renters that come have got wide trucks with sleds on the back and trailers pulling sleds, etc. And I have no idea where they're all going to fit. So just in closing, again, I think many of us in the neighborhood we love Revelstoke. We love to see it grow in a responsible way. And are not against newcomers or development in our neighborhoods. It's not a in my backyard issue. It's just what constitutes proper governance and development in a city-driven agenda, and not just driven by developers' agenda. And I know it's not a question of yes or no. It's just, as it's drafted now, do we think it's the best way it can be drafted? And I don't think so. I think if it is stated that the only portion of the property that is decided on or how it's going to be developed in the short term is along Nickel, well then how about have a clear, concise zoning for that area and start with that, rather than just a carte blanche mixed use zoning that really in some ways defeats the purpose of zoning if it's going to allow everything anyway. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jill. I've come to the end of the speakers list, and the microphone is open for anyone that wishes to step up to the microphone. Please state your name and your address clearly, and the microphone is open. You can line up behind me if you like.
Good Good evening. My name is Gary Starling. I live 219 3rd Street East. Thank you, Mayor and Council, and everybody for attending. I don't know if I can speak as eloquently as some of the people here. Apparently, realtors have a lot of time on their hands to write these big speeches, and I don't. But I just have a few notes. One of the things that's come up repeatedly during this discussion about where this type of build-out should happen, and it was mentioned here tonight, was the old school properties. Currently, the old school properties aren't for sale. And I don't know why we're even having that conversation. They're not for sale. The school board does not want to apparently move them at this time. So we have a developer here today that wants to build. And that's what the task at hand. We have to decide whether or not this is a good build-out or not. I believe it is. I speak in favor of it. I think they've been at this for a year. Council's had lots of opportunities to look at the plan. Our planning department's had lots of opportunities to look at it. And nothing's ever perfect. I heard somebody mention dumpsters. Well, if we can't come up with a solution for that, that just makes no sense to hold up a project because of a couple of dumpsters. They can easily be moved. I'm sure David and Shelley would come up with something alternatively for that. And I think we have to look at opportunities here rather than all the negative things. And I can certainly understand the angst of people that live in that neighborhood. It's a big change. But it's been said repeatedly here tonight, so I'm almost don't want to repeat it. But if we don't move forward, we're going backwards. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen a community so anxious to throw developers under the bus. We just had another developer that was going to take a $20 million development and bring it to our town, and we sat packing. And yet our population is decreasing. Our children don't have jobs to go to. It makes absolutely no sense. We have to embrace change, and we have to embrace these new things. People want to come here. Every time I go out in the community, I hear people that I meet from other places, they want to come here. There's no opportunities for them here. There's no housing unless you want to buy a multi-million-dollar property on the hill or a heritage home and remodel it for 5 years like I did. You don't have enough opportunities here. We need to accept change. We need to get our heads around that and move forward. And that's, I guess, it in a nutshell. That's all I was saying.
Thanks, Gary.
Hello, good evening, Council, Mayor, people of the community. I'm Tuliki Tennant, and I live at 1640 Hay Road. And as people may know, I'm a retired social worker, and I completely understand the need for having different kinds of developments in our community to meet affordable and accessible and all those kinds of really important issues. I'm just concerned about the intensity of the density, really, if you want to really know my viewpoint on this. I think it's too much of a build on that small property. I think that I've lived in this community for 20 years, and I think this community is pretty creative, and we always welcome new people. I was new 20 years ago, and I was welcomed as well. But I think there's an opportunity here to really look at that development and just make it a bit smaller. I think that we need some commercial space in Arrow Heights, but I'm just really super concerned about the number of people that will be utilizing that small space. So thank you.
Thanks, Tuliki.
My name is Heidi Birch, and I live up in Arrow Heights, 1757 Emerald Drive, right next to the new development. And I have nothing against developing anything new. And I lived here for 50 years, and I've seen the dams come and go, the people who are here, and I understand the concern of us and other people. I drove around Columbia Park the other day, and I saw Columbia Garden Apartments. I don't know who is governing and look after things there, but the city should step in, and I can see this happening. When the owners are not living on site, what can happen to places where people live from everywhere. They pack up and go and leave their garbage outside their back windows and everything. And then I drove up to the Thunderbird. And this is what is proposed here, the small streets and everything. And I wish all you people would take a drive up there before you come here and say, oh, it's going to be wonderful. I like to talk to everyone when it's all built, what they're going to say then. Because I don't think it's the right. Do duplexes, even fourplexes, but don't do a mass development like this. I mean, you're going to ruin the whole neighborhood.
Hi, I'm Dylan Mulvey. I've lived here for 35 years, my whole life. Born and raised. I recently moved to Arrow Heights 3 years ago for the nice big yard and, you know, the dream basically. It's a nice place to live in my opinion. And my concern is all the kids that are going to go to the school, like where my kids are going to go, because we all know that they're not going to fit in that school. And we all know that the sewage treatment plant isn't going to handle the density of those people. We all know the roads are not going to handle those people. So where's the solution for me as a young, struggling man who travels for work every week to pay for everything? Like, am I going to have to absorb all this into my property taxes in the future? Like, something to think about. I was hoping to spend my whole life here, but if we're going to just sprint to the finish line and be a Whistler, I'm not interested.
My name is Jonathan Bennett. I live at 408B Wilson Street. Moved to town as of 8 years ago. I came here for a ski season, as lots of people do, and I kind of stayed. It's a great town. I come from a small town in central Alberta, roughly the size of Revelstoke. My town is currently dwindling. It's loss of jobs, poor housing conditions, and no new business. I moved to the city for schooling. I have a background in architecture and design. One of the key points to this development that I think are really good for the community is that we're looking at some of the best development processes available today. We're not looking at high density. We're not looking at skyscrapers. We're not looking at single family houses. We're looking at a happy mix in between of medium density development, duplexes, a few single family developments, and then we're offering a whole range for people to start their lives with and then to grow. I originally looked at buying property up in the area due to the architectural constraints. It didn't fit my lifestyle. My wife and I have purchased a home in downtown Revelstoke where we can walk to the stores, to schools, to businesses. We can have a motor-free lifestyle downtown. I think what's going on near the resort will allow future families to have that type of atmosphere. When I was a kid, I walked playgrounds. We had lots of green space to play in. I think if we go to straight single-family development, we're going to lose that. What we're offering up there is a place for families to grow. We're just expanding the community, and we're not doing it overnight. We're doing it over 10 to 15 years as the community needs. We're not designing every coffee cup holder for every house right now. We're just coming up with a way that we can move forward. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
My name is Bill Shuttleworth, live at 420 Moss Street. You hear a lot of people, I get the feeling they think this is all going to happen at once. I really don't think so. It's going to be phased in. So we'll get used to it. Trees can be planted and grow to shelter neighboring properties. But one of my concerns is that my wife and I are getting older. We've got a very big house on a very big lot. And it's getting to be too much. Now, where do I move? I want to stay in Revelstoke. I think I've got Selkirk Gardens, and that's about the limit. So we do need places that we can afford to buy where we have far less maintenance to worry about. And some of the properties that are being considered here should fit our bill. So, yeah, there's lots of, you can come up with all the streets, the sewage, but that can all be handled. Improve the roads. Another bridge eventually is going to happen, but that can all be done. And yeah, I've sort of changed my mind and I'm somewhat in favor of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Beth Manson, and I was born and raised here. I grew up in Arrow Heights. My first concern mainly is the sewage treatment plant. Right now, I feel like we're at main capacity. You hear Southside all the time, they're complaining. So I think before we even think about doing some type of development like this, which I'm not against necessarily, but I think we need to look at upgrading our infrastructure for the city before we go ahead with something like this.
Thanks, Matt. The mic is open and available. Absolutely, you should.
I would actually like to see you talking about bringing a lot of people into town. Where are the jobs? For those people who come to town without jobs. Okay, they can come in winter. The vacation rentals should be totally off the Richter scale. That should just not be happening, because you're going to get a lot of people in, creating a lot of traffic for a short period of time. It's not a good thing. I would like to see the plans in structure. I would like to see the fact that vacation rentals are off. The fact of what are you going to do about employment? The fact of, I know that this won't go through at the level that it's going to go through at. It'll get reduced. But I agree with the schools. Seriously, we have 2 really good properties that we can use for this kind of structure, rather than just having 1,100 properties on one particular very small street and one particular very small area. Sorry, forgot to mention, my name's Louise Brown. I live at 1752 Hay Road. So, and I know it's going to impact my lifestyle quite a bit just by the traffic. Thank you.
Derek.
Yes, hello. I'm reading a letter on behalf of some residents that live at 1875 Hay Road that border the existing development. This is from Peter and Lisa Hughes. It says, Dear City Council, residents, and David Evans, we're sorry we are not able to attend the meeting due to work commitments. However, we would like to strongly object to the proposal for rezoning behind our property on Hay Road. Section F on the sketches, which we have always understood to be R1 single family dwelling in keeping with current homes, has been harmonious with the current residents. Less spoilage of the view and in keeping the tranquility of the beautiful natural area. Please accept this as a letter of disapproval for the proposal to rezone these properties.
Microphones are available for anybody that would like to come up and speak, even if you've come up once before, even if you've come up twice before.
My name is Michael Brick, and I live on 1791 Park Drive. I'd just like to say I'm in disbelief of the density proposed here. This is Revelstoke, not Vancouver, not Whistler, not Kamloops, not Kelowna, Revelstoke. We have developed a unique character here in Revelstoke. We were told when the new ski hill came, we were not to worry that we would keep this character intact. The downtown core would stay intact, and the ski hill would be an entity all of its own. Revelstoke would not change in any big or drastic way. I have owned my home in Arrow Heights for 35 years, and I've always been confident that I would never see density like this, nor any commercial development whatsoever in Arrow Heights. After all, this is a residential neighborhood, one where families live and raise children and contribute to the community. A few years ago, quite a few years ago, an application for a pub on Nickel Road met stiff opposition from residents. A petition against the pub in the area of Arrow Heights School defeated this proposal with overwhelming support. We do not need a pub or any commercial development in Arrow Heights. With the new hill came more traffic on our roads than we need. This traffic is also out of character with our neighborhood because of the speed and habits, passing in school zones, racing down Park Drive in order to jump the queue at the four-way stop on Nickel and Airport Way, and the high density of this traffic in general. With a commercial zone, including a pub, and this high density proposal, traffic woes in Arrow Heights, and the only artery to and from town will be at a premium. I thought we were promised in the Revelstoke Master Plan that commercial would remain in the downtown core. Other concerns of mine include sewer service to homes. Homeowners in Arrow Heights have been denied sewer service, but this high density proposal would be serviced. Who will pay for a second sewage lagoon so we can have sewer service? Who will pay for a second Illisillo River crossing and more roads and sidewalks when the existing infrastructure cannot service the need? Who is going to pay for more police protection, etc., etc.? Is there a place for high density like this in Revelstoke? If not the east end of Nickel, what about the west end of Nickel and between Nickel and Newlands Road? I very much doubt the residents of that area would want it. Someone mentioned the Mountain View School property to me as an alternative, but I'll bet the residents there would not want this. Why? Because back to the beginning, it is out of character for Revelstoke. A high-density vacation rental-oriented development is out of character for this small city. This city is, strictly speaking, populated by people living in residential neighborhoods, residential houses, and that is what the character of this place is based upon and what gives Revelstoke its unique character. After all, this is why we have all chosen to live and work in Revelstoke, is for the character of this community.
Thanks, Mike.
Hello, my name is Sue Davis. I'm 1640 Windsor Drive, so in the area, but not quite close. I'd just like to say I lived in a town in New Zealand. It was a bit smaller than Revelstoke. At the time that I moved there, the town was mostly fully populated. We didn't have a lot of spare houses, but there were some spare lots in the area. And about that time that I moved in there, and I say it was a smaller town, it was only about 1,200 people in that town. At that time, a developer came and the town council decided to allow that developer to create 190 new lots. And it was welcomed at the time. There was concern, as there is here, there was concern that that would flood the real estate market at that stage. And exactly that's what happened. So 190 new lots were established in that town. And as I speak, 8 years later, about 20% of them are sold. So that leaves 80% of them still unsold. And it leaves a lot of people that basically that market has been flooded. And people who had lots prior to that development, they're stuck there. There's no way that they can sell their lots. You know, they invested in those lots before the development. The city council said, yeah, let's go ahead and, you know, flood the market, and they're stuck. So I just want to say that that may happen here. I don't know whether it will or not, but we need to consider that if we flood the market, then people who own their homes here now, potentially they're stuck. You know, you might have bought a home for current market rates, and I don't know what will happen to it, but that's something to think about. Yeah, I guess that's all I want to say.
1728 Hay Road. I've lived here for over 31 years. Sorry, for over 31 years. I walk Nickel Road and Hay Road every day. I would like to say that I think before council actually approved this, that we should think of the infrastructure. We fought for years to get a sidewalk for our kids on Nickel Road. It finally came in last year, but only half of Nickel Road. Currently, our homes, we have no sewer. Our capacity, we've been told as residents, there's no capacity for us, for the remaining residents, to get sewer. I think that should be addressed. We've paid taxes for 30 years, and infrastructure is a big item for us, and I think that should be addressed before we actually bring more people on board. We're talking about the cost, low-income families and whatnot. According to the demographics on the city site, it says that 74% of households earn less than $50,000. So that being the case, a home would have to be much less than $200,000 to be able to afford it. So I think that's one of the things. The other thing there, it said that the number of units may vary depending on the market, but overall the footprint will remain the same. So putting that number of units in a third of the population of Revelstoke in the same, on that such small area, I think needs to be considered as well. And that's all.
Thanks, Glenda.
Hello, I'm Virginia Thompson. I live at 1070 The Shadow in Preston.
Speak up, please, Virginia.
As close to the mic as you can.
Okay. Okay. So I'm not right next to this development, but I have a lot of concerns, and I agree with most of the speakers that have been against it. I like mixed housing. You know, I could imagine living in a townhouse or some such, or a condo, you know, and getting on. But I can't imagine living there because it's just too big in one spot. I like mixed housing. I like that kind of thing. I come from Toronto. I'm not against it, but I think this is just too big for Revelstoke. It's disproportionate. Too much in one spot. I like the idea of spreading out some mixed housing in different areas. So I'm not going to reiterate everything that everyone said. My one big, I think there's a real fatal flaw in all of this, and that is that it's idealized as a sort of small, ideal neighborhood for kids and families and stuff. But I think, and that would be lovely if it weren't too big. But I read through the proposal and it doesn't limit vacation rentals anywhere. It never says a maximum of or anything like that. So I can imagine it being developed gradually as the need arises or whatever. And I think what might happen is that it would be, if they couldn't sell the things that they built, the temptation would be to have it all vacation rental. And the way it is written, I think they could do it. And I think that would be a nightmare.
Thanks, Virginia. David?
Hi. I'll just touch on a couple of points. First of all, the latest one, vacation rentals. We're not building everything tomorrow. So if we don't sell everything, there aren't going to be 1,100 units which are vacation rentals. This is, as stated many, many occasions, a 10 to 15 year project. There will be 30 townhouses or 60 or 70 apartments built in phase 1. There will be a portion of those that are sold, hopefully all of them are sold, and hopefully we move on to phase 2. The only portion that might come up for vacation rentals or anything like that would be what's unsold. And there's not a, from my standpoint, there's not a lot of inventory that would be left. We're not going to be building without having pre-sales and without having a known market to sell it into. The lady over here talked about development of single site into 1,200 lots. Well, that's exactly what we're looking not to do. This current site is zoned R1 and can be developed tomorrow into single family lots. There doesn't need to be any change in zoning or permission for that. You can go ahead and we'll probably get 200 to 250 single family lots out of that site. That is what will kill property prices in Arrow Heights and put pressure on the next 20, 30 years. I think the average sales of lots in Arrow Heights is about 5 or 6 a year, so I'm sure there's some people who are good at maths and it's over a long time. The idea of changing the zoning and building studio 1, 2 and 3 bedroom apartments as well as townhouses and duplexes is so that we are actually creating something that people want and that will not sit idle and will not put pressure on existing housing stock. People have mentioned the roads, calling them English roads. I'm not quite sure where that comes from. The road designs are very common road designs for modern mountain communities. I'll mention the word Whistler. We're not looking to turn this into Whistler. Whistler, other modern mountain communities use these sustainable road techniques, where the road, the tarmac surface, is between 7 and 9 metres instead of up to 20 metres. The amount of snow that needs to be cleared is dramatically less as a result. There is 1.5 metres of gravel, permeable shoulder, and another 1.5 to 2 metres of grass swale. So there is plenty of space for that snow to be stored and moved, and these things work in mountain communities that have as much or more snow than we do. This is not a new thing, this is not something that's been brought up. Somebody else also mentioned that in the zoning we're looking to build 400 units per hectare. We're looking to build, the proposal in front of you today is for 1,200, between 1,200 and 500. The total site is 14.4 hectares. If I multiply 400 by 14.4, I get 5,760. So we're not looking to build 400 units per hectare. That is not true. The units that we're building, how do we get to 1,100 units, 1,200 units? That's made up of the offering of studio 1, 2 and 3 bedroom apartments, which we currently do not have in our community. 700 of those units come in that smaller size. If the demand isn't there for that smaller size and we end up building 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom and predominantly townhouses, the number of units built is 500. All the numbers are on the boards, all the numbers have been out since the last open house. So we're not building for the sake of building. The numbers are manageable and can be moved with what the demand is. There was somebody else talking about the volume of people that goes into there if it's 1,100 units. If there's 1,100 units, there's a lot of 400, 500 square foot apartments. These are studios, 1 bedrooms. They do not carry the same 2.9 people that a standard household does. The volume of people is much less. Those numbers, again, are all available and on the boards. So, yeah, thank you.
Bank, 1752 Hay Road, Arrow Heights. We've been talking about 15 years, 30 years. I'd like to think about what might happen 100 years from now. My opinion is that the conventional development is a far smarter way forward than the proposed development. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, my name is Gary Graff, and I live at 1128 Pine Ridge Crescent in Arrow Heights. That's Oakland Hospital. Basically, we've been following this debate and many of the others in Revelstoke for the 6 years that we've been here with considerable interest. We're retired. We've moved here because of many of the attributes that Revelstoke has and we like and continue to like. As we feel more a part of the community, I think we continue to have a great deal of respect for our elected officials. These are difficult decisions. So I only have two comments really to make about our feelings about this proposal. One is about trust. And our major objection to it is that it undermines the trust of the neighbors in the community that have made significant purchase decisions based on existing plans and past decisions. The other point that I want to mention is leadership. And we look to our elected officials for leadership in pulling some of these ideas that are often random and complex and putting them together in a way that works. And when we have very credible, respected developers that have confidence in the community and a vision for our community, there has to be a way that smart people can sit down and think about where projects like this can go ahead in a variety of ways and forms, not dense and plopped onto one area that's near a residential area. So perhaps some of the suggestions here that have come forward could be considered further, and I think it's incumbent upon our elected officials to explore them before making a thumbs up, thumbs down decision. And again, I'm very respectful of all the people that have made their opinions, brought their opinions forward today, especially the developers. It's a challenge to move forward in any communities in British Columbia in this manner. So, thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Microphone is open and
Hey, my name is Ashton Tebow, and I live at 705 Vernon Avenue. And I'm just trying to unlock my phone for some notes here. I moved here in July, so I apologize. I'm not extremely familiar with everybody, but I'm assuming the gentleman that commented a minute ago is the developer. And you know what? I think he's absolutely right. I don't think there's any smart business person that would say, you know, yeah, we want to build 1,100 units. They build 100 of them. They don't sell. Why would he continue building 1,000 more? I understand that point. I think that's a very valid point. I've got a few other thoughts on what people have said about the development. And again, being here for less than a year as a resident of Revelstoke, I've been involved and followed this discussion of it. It was mentioned to me when we purchased last year that something like this could be coming through. And I followed and was involved in the discussion on the shopping plaza that we had early this year. I think there's a few parallels that go between these, and the thing is, in my opinion, the majority of the people in Revelstoke are not opposed to development, are not opposed to building, are not opposed to more housing, to more service type businesses, to job creation, if you will. What the resounding feedback seems to me to be is these ones that are proposed are not right. So how can we massage them to be right? And I would put forward if I could be so brash as to put forward a challenge to our council, our elected officials that speak for the residents of Revelstoke, is to take charge of, the future planning, the development, the things like that, rather than, as an outsider, from my opinion, to look in and say, okay, so these developments are being proposed. Are they developments that are thrown our way with a dollar figure attached, saying, it's going to grow our tax base, it's going to have this kind of revenue, that's great for the city, here's what the development looks like. How about, on the flip side of that, our council, our elected officials go and say, here's what we want to develop, here's what we need to achieve, who can massage this into something that works to our plans? It's a very different way of approaching this kind of development. And for me, that's not to say that the developer proposing this development wouldn't build the right thing for that land, because it sounds like he would build something based around the market conditions and what the demand would be for those areas. However, there were very good points brought up. Trucks, the trailers, all the things that come into town. If you go down to Boulder and Frisbee Ridge to the lodge there, where are you going to park those things? My neighbors park on the lawn. There's 3 Ram 3500s with 2 sleds on the back, and their trailers, they're parked on the lawn. There's nowhere to park, and I live downtown, So there are things like that. I think it's a very good point about school properties. It's a different conversation that we need to have, but again, that's part of the challenge. They may not be for sale now. I moved here from Vancouver, where I still work. The city of Vancouver didn't have their school properties for sale until suddenly it was a fire sale, and all the properties were gone because school funding is being cut all the time. They need money, they need to buy pencils and paper. My wife was a teacher for 6 years, and she gave out her own wages to buy paper and buy books for her students of curriculum and things that she wanted to teach and supplies that she felt were necessary. So people are looking for money. A school district would look to sell areas like that if that's something that was going to happen or be a possibility. So I think there are definitely ways for council to, steer the way that the citizens and residents of Revelstoke want to build. Another point that I have is homes don't create jobs. So we're talking about job creation city soul. There was a very good point made about the amount of people, working on $15 an hour or less in town. Again, that's why I work still in Vancouver, and I commute 5.5 hours each way, because I wanted to live here. I made that decision, but there's no work here that pays me what I need to make, that I can get. So that is another thing. We need jobs in order to have people move into those homes. So which one's the cart, which one's the horse, that's really for you guys to decide. Another thing that I'll bring up that came up in the last debate on the shopping mall as well is there's a lot of, I'm going to call it fear tactic when people say non-growth is retraction. I completely disagree. We're seeing that, economic theory that says we can sustain GDP growth of 7% in perpetuity are completely false. You're seeing it with China right now, retracting in certain of their industries. Non-growth is not retraction. There is a carrying capacity for communities, a carrying capacity for environment, and when you reach carrying capacity, you can remain constant, you can self-support, and you can self-sustain. It's not retraction if you don't grow necessarily. It depends how you plan it and how you approach it. Thanks.
I'd just like to challenge what Mr. Evans said about the roads in Whistler being so efficient. We were there on a motorcycle trip this summer, and the roads are completely congested. There's absolutely no parking unless it's underground. So if that's what we're going to have, we don't want it. And I think that, you've got to give more weight to the people that are going to be directly affected by this project. And I think from what you heard tonight, the people that are going to live next to it are the ones that absolutely don't want it.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm back again. I've been asked to read a letter on behalf of Tina Mirich. Is that correct? She has informed me that she works for the city, and she is unable to read this in front of you and the staff. So I guess she's asked me to speak for her on her behalf. So of course, these are her words and not my words, and I will read them word for word. Thank you for the opportunity to bring forth my concerns on behalf of myself and my family that live in the Arrow Heights neighborhood. It has been suggested that I have characterized myself as a city employee during this process. I want to ensure and clarify on this matter that I have and will continue to represent myself as a resident of Arrow Heights, a resident who, should this rezoning application be approved, would be directly affected. Despite my concerns as a citizen, I have maintained a respectful manner in regards to the developer and his project. My opposition is in regards to the rezoning of the land adjacent to my home to allow for high-density development versus the current zoning of single family. Residents of Arrow Heights need to protect their investment, and as a collective community need to find a solution which allows for a more reasonable density and development of the lands. Should the lands gain approval for high-density construction, there is considerable concern that the family-oriented open space footprint of Arrow Heights will be stamped with clustered housing. Arrow Heights residents have a vested interest in not only maintaining their property values, but most importantly, maintaining the spacious yards, nature trails, parks, and our focus on family environment that currently attracts purchasers to the neighborhood. When I made a decision to build my home, I did my research. I knew the surrounding area and vacant lands were zoned R1. The informed residents could fully expect that additional single-family development would occur in the area. I was accepting of this reality and made a decision to build my home in the neighborhood where I grew up based on this understanding of future development. I wanted the same family or same feeling of safety and community as I had as a child. If the land around my home had been zoned high density, I would have chosen another area of town to invest my future and my children's future in. Proposed development has many different building options, from townhomes, duplexes, apartment complexes, multifamily dwellings, and single-family homes. Unfortunately, but despite the options, the developer appears to lean heavily in favor of vacation rentals. The developer has indicated he will market the development to his first-time home buyers, retirees, recreational property owners, and renters. The developer has proposed to amalgamate various different groups into a single compact parcel. Seniors and families often thrive when living in close proximity. The family unit and the family neighborhood lend many positive results. I am very concerned that the same is not often said about mixed families and seniors in a more transient population. High level of renters, absent property owners, and short-term stays does not always create the same vested interest as a traditional neighborhood does. Resort-style settings lend themselves to increased noise and traffic. People come short-term and have a good time and party and make the most of their experience. In turn, the mixing this casual attitude into a residential area may lead to many strangers walking amongst the children and families in the neighborhood. The children of Arrow Heights have been comfortable walking to friends, riding bikes, and playing at the park. Will the feeling of safety still be there when 2,000 plus proposed new residents merge onto this property of the community, almost done? Logistically, I have to ask what evidence has been accumulated that would support such a high density in not only the proposed building site, but in Revelstoke as a whole. Does the city propose that in fact that the majority of the purchasers will be owned, occupied homes, that we have 2,000 new people who want to move to Revelstoke, 2,000 new jobs to support them, and the families and infrastructure to handle such an influx of new residents to the community? I'm concerned that the density is far-reaching to the reality of the current times in Revelstoke. Does it not make more sense to offer resort rentals at the resort? Quote from the proposal: if the demand for commercial or residential is not high enough to fill the allotted space, the buildings can still be used for vacation rentals. The This flexibility reduces empty buildings and allows the neighborhood to evolve naturally. This flexibility is built into the surrounding residence sub-area, allowing the entire neighborhood to better respond to market demands. Has a feasibility study been completed? A study which confirms there is a need in Revelstoke for a development of such magnitude in this residential area. I am not opposed to development in the lands similar to Hay Road and the beautifully designed adjacent subdivision. Arrow Heights is a family neighborhood. Let us keep it that way. Revelstoke is a unique community, and I often hear people commenting why they relocated here or chose to stay here after graduation. The theme is the same. It is peaceful, it is safe, and it's quaint. Revelstoke prides itself on community, character, and knowing who your neighbors are. 1 minute, I'll wrap up. The proposal is for 1,100 units of 14.4 hectares. Currently, there are 500 homes in Arrow Heights and a space that covers approximately 210 hectares. Is proposing that a residential count of Arrow Heights increase by over 2 times on an area that is approximately 1/15 the size of the Arrow Heights feasible? Is it realistic? With current proposed zones and building heights, my personal property could have a 4-story building built 1 meter from my property line, blocking my sunlight on my deck. Blocking my view, this will affect my quality of life and the value of my property. All buildings built next to any existing neighborhood single-family homes should be limited to single-family homes. 2 stories and have the current setbacks that are allotted or allocated in Arrow Heights for single-family homes. As a resident of Arrow Heights, I respectfully request council to reconsider this large-scale development in favor of maintaining the current zoning, which is more conducive to maintaining and complementing the neighborhood properties and community as it currently exists. Thank you for your opportunity to contribute input for consideration and decision-making in this process. And I may say, if she wrote this, these were the exact same words that would come out of my mouth if I was able to write as well as she does. I am a neighbor in that, I own a property in that area. She's speaking truly from the heart as far as I represent it. This was the first time I read this. I never read this before, and I agree 100% with what she has said.
Hello, my name is James Saunders. I live at 717 West Victoria Road, and I'm kind of here to get somewhat of a global view of Revelstoke. I work in 52 different countries around the world. 4 years ago, I decided to make Revelstoke my home because of the community. And I have Revelstoke in my company name, and the one theme that comes up, no matter where I am around the world, is they come to our booth because of the name Revelstoke, because of the town. They love the town, they always come here. The only problem they find is that they have to go somewhere else to spend their money to buy places to go vacation because there isn't enough in Revelstoke to accommodate what they'd like to do. So I believe that we are missing out on millions of dollars worldwide from people that love the community, love what it's about, and would mess it up. That's all I have to say.
I said earlier that before I close the public hearing, I'll call for any last comments 3 times. I just wanted to remind council as well as the public that when the public hearing is closed, the time for public comments, submissions, talking to council is over, and I hope that council and the public understands that and respects that. And anyways, Dennis, you have the floor.
Yeah, my name is Dennis Kelly, one of the 4 in town. I'm living on 1995 Hay Road. I see this as being a request for a huge development, and maybe this might be the last request for the proposal. And it does look like it could really crowd the area a lot. So why not just have another serious look at it, concerns for all the people who will be affected by it, and more or less see it proposed, granted more or less as a portion of the huge development, which is looking like it's what we get blanket approval. Yes, there's a lot of concerns that myself, and I'm sure others have too, regarding the infrastructure that would be required down the road, and who gets to pay the taxes. And with that in mind, and I know there would be changes to roads, changes to sewer, maybe street lights on the roads, who knows what's coming, and there's no assurance that none of this will eventually. And therefore, the whole issue can make the person leery of the future of a massive congregation of sorts of people who come together in these areas when there's no jobs. Literally, people walk around town now with no work. How are 2,000 more people going to get work? And what type of people are going to come here if there are no jobs? Are they going to be empty homes like half of Aspen Crescent up there, Arrow Heights new development? I think these are questions that should be looked at seriously and given a real, truthful consideration. Thank you.
I just want to say one other thing, potentially about the number of houses. David mentioned that, you know, if you built a number of houses and they weren't going to sell, then, you know, you wouldn't go on any further. What may happen is that if those houses do sell, but they don't sell to Revelstoke people because of the lack of jobs, that in fact they sell to people who live out of town in some other place in the city somewhere, and that those people just buy those houses and then rent them out. So I just wanted to, that is pretty much what happened to the situation with the 190 lots in the town that was actually in New Zealand, that town. So that's what happened, is a lot of those lots were bought by somebody out of town and then they were just on-sold and on-sold, and it did a lot of damage to the property market in that town. And I think they could happen here too.
For the first time, is there anyone who wishes to make any further representations?
Thanks again. Thank you all for having this debate. It's good. And I think I missed my point before. I'm not a very good public speaker. I lived here my whole life, and as soon as I graduated, I basically hit the workforce. I worked for countless companies in this town that I've kept a good reputation with. I've made a decent living, but even working for local businesses, in order to make the money that's required to live in Arrow Heights, even in your suggested development, you're traveling. Okay, so there's a lot of young people my age, my generation, where we're leaving 5.5 hours to Vancouver. I drove 2.5 hours tonight to be here, and I'm driving 2.5 hours tomorrow at 4:30 in the morning to get back. There is not the work here. Let me tell you, I can search it. There's nothing more in the world that I want to do to rest my head on my pillow and be at home, be a part of my family, and raise a family. But the work is not here, and you're going to end up with these places that are one bedrooms. But if you think for a minute that it's going to be one person in that one bedroom place, you're dreaming. Because we all know when you drive around town, in the wintertime especially, you look at 2-3 bedroom homes, and there's way more than 2 or 3 people living in that house. I've lived in the houses, split levels with my girlfriend Beth, my fiance, and we've had people below us, 4 or 5 people in a basement suite, and the owner just goes like this. It's a paycheck in their pocket, and that's who's going to buy these places. They're going to be people who are going to rent them out, and they're not going to care if there's 4 or 5 people there because the check ain't balancing. So please, thank you. I want to spend the rest of my life here. I want to retire here. I know that there's a lot of people I went to school with that would love to be back here right now, but they can't. But the ones that are here, please don't scare us away by changing what our community has been. We want to see development. We want to see this move forward, but not Cloverdale and Surrey in Arrow Heights. We want to keep the character of this town, and your 52 countries you go to, yeah, they come here because of what it is, not because of what you want to make it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just went to the back and did a little bit of arithmetic, right? And I added up the numbers on the area that those 6 developments are going to cover, and it comes up to approximately 12.5 hectares. I live at 1757 Hector Road, which is a quarter-acre lot. Okay, 12.5 hectares comes out to around 31.25 acres, or 125 quarter-acre lots. 1,200 units on 125 acres comes up to around 10 units per acre. Whether it's 2 people or 3 people or 4 people per unit, I just cannot fathom 20 to 30 to 40 people and 10 or 20 or 30 cars on my quarter-acre lot. I just don't think that fits in our ways. Thank you.
For a second time, is there anyone who wishes to make representations on this public hearing?
My name is Rick Reynolds, 1666 Dogwood Drive. Your Worship and members of Council, thanks very much for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. There are very, very many people in the room here who are residents of Arrow Heights, and I think you can probably see the passion that people have for our neighborhood by the fact that we've been here for 3 hours, and not very many people have left. I just wanted to say that I think that if this was a meeting about rezoning of the property that involved R1 single residential homes, some duplexes, and a mix of a number of townhome areas, I don't think you'd have this many people in the room. I think you'd probably have less than 10 if it was a much simpler, much lower scale, but still multiple density development. And I think that if you were to ask developers to go back to the table on things that are disagreeable to neighbors, I don't think that's a sign of being closed for business or anti-development. I think it's just a sign of good business and good development. I think almost anybody here in the room who's lived here for more than the last 2 years can probably think of a couple dozen businesses that have started over the last couple of years. So we're not a town that's closed to business or closed to development. We're just looking for wise business and wise development. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ingrid Boaz. I'm very nervous. Just have to say something. First of all, thank you for this opportunity. I'd like
Close to
to.
the microphone, Ingrid.
Sorry. I'd like to ditto Tina's letter. I thought it was very well written and she covered a lot of bases. I live downtown. I hear a lot of people from Arrow Heights expressing their concerns, but as a past resident of Revelstoke for 21 years, I actually moved from Banff, and I really love this town the way it is. This high density should not be allowed. I used to be a planning secretary for the town of Banff, so I'm totally understanding about housing development. Vacation rental, personally, that should not happen because people that will buy it are people from the United States. They'll be from different parts of Canada that will purchase one of these units, and then they will rent it out, and they will become the person that comes for a part of the winter or part of the summer and rent it out, and get people like locals to claim those units, and that is what really is going to happen with those vacation rentals. That eventually may happen to this whole location, and the 1,100 units, like everyone's expressing concern, it is way too high of a density. And going to the ski hill every day, I know how busy that road is. I feel sorry for people on 4th Street. I feel sorry for people on Nicola Road, and you had, 1,100 units on that area. People will not be able to get out of their complex to get onto that road. It's going to be great, chaotic. Anyways, I just want to express that, and hopefully you listen to everyone's comments, because there's a mix of positive and negatives, and I just have to see this how I feel. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stuart Andrews. I live on Highway 23 North. Just to give an example of high-density mixed housing, just down the road from me there's what we call the Big Ben Hotel, which is owned by Steve Millan. I'd like you to take a look at that for high-density mixed housing. There's a trailer on there, and I believe 8 cabins, which most of it is just falling down. If that's high-density mixed housing, we don't need it here.
Concerns, but one of them I'd like to talk about is I like to have fun with numbers. Fun. But some of the arguments based on numbers that have been made for this are not fun. I don't like the things that say the residents who live on single-family lots are a net loss to the city. This just blows my mind, because what makes Revelstoke special for me is the people, the way people work together in community. I don't care what kind of not fun with numbers you can have that make them a liability. Thank you.
Council. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Janet Sal, and I live at 1364 Arrow Heights Road. My main point is, as the letter I wrote to Council earlier, there is no way that Arrow Heights should bear the brunt of vacation rentals for Revelstoke and the resort. Vacation rentals belong to the resort, not to the neighborhood with families, children, schools, pets, and people that are walking and enjoying their neighborhood. Vacation rentals are fine, but they need to be at the resort and not in a neighborhood. Thank you.
For a third time, is there anyone here that wishes to make representation of this public hearing?
Walk up here and make representation. But one thing that I want to have an understanding of is, where does RMR employee housing fit into the proposal for this postage stamp with 2,340 souls on it? Thank you.
Questions, but it doesn't. If RMR was to buy some property up there, some of these units, and provide employee housing, I say good, because they should be providing employee housing. But right now, I do not know of any deal that's supplying any housing to RMR. And I hope RMR does start buying some, and building some employee housing. Sir, you have the floor.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council. My name is Jason McPherson. I live at 1957 Baruski. My kids go to school there. The school is pretty full, pretty at capacity. Not enough for 11 more children to go to. And did you ever try to make a doctor's appointment in this town? Pretty difficult thing to do. Taxes are pretty high in Arrowhead already. And that's because we all have a peaceful, quiet place to live. We don't mind paying such high taxes because that's the way it has to be for what we have. But if there's going to be that many more people and that many more vehicles, it's not going to be so pleasant anymore. Thank you.
Once again, I do agree with the fact that the rentals, vacation rentals in Revelstoke is needed, absolutely. And Ski Hill and town is going to develop, it has to come from somewhere, go somewhere. And as it is, the ideal location to a point is where it is proposed right now. However, again, I stress the fact that rather than give a proposal or agreement to the whole entire area, perhaps again consider a portion of it as a starting point and let's see what happens from there. Thank you.
Already called for a third time. Does anybody else who would like to make representation? If you are thinking about saying something, now would be the chance. Now would be the time. I will be closing this public hearing. And again, I want to remind public and council that the time for public comments is going to be over. And I would like everyone to please respect that. Last opportunities for any comments to make representation on this public hearing. Seeing none, I close this public hearing. I'm looking for a motion to do just that, to close this public hearing. Councillor Nixon and Councillor English. All those in favor? Motion is carried. This public hearing is now closed. There is motions here if council is so prepared to make a motion. Seeing no motions? Will be motion.
Right, so on agenda item 2B.
Speak up.
Hello? There we go. So on agenda item 2E, I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2102, being a bylaw to amend the City of Revelstoke zoning bylaw number 1264, 1984, to add a new comprehensive development zone 17, CD 17, be read a third time.
So second for that motion. Councilor Brothers. Discussion on the motion.
This is a really, really difficult issue that comes before council. And I thank all of you for making the submissions that you've made, because I think, that's what Revelstoke is all about, is people coming in to speak for their community and how they feel. I think that this development has been brought forward and a lot of work has been done and a lot of thought has been put into it. One of the things that I see is, just as a councillor, is that we need housing in this community. We need housing very, very badly. And we lose residents. People can't come to stay here. People can't come to be here unless they have places to live. And so it starts with residents and places to live. And when you have residents coming in, then you have businesses developing, you have services needed, and so people come in and they that's how businesses grow and that's how communities grow. So I think it's really important that we as a community think about having housing and looking at new developments. And I understand the people in Arrow Heights. I understand that it's difficult to have a housing unit next to a development like this, but I'm inclined to think that we need to have some development housing in this community to grow. I think we need to grow, and so I am going to support this motion.
Is there any other comments from council on the motion?
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to speak to this, and I'm supportive of this development. I have heard the concerns of the neighbors, and I understand their concerns. I too have had a chance to look at this development over the last year, and feel that this is a necessary development for our community as we go forward.
Any other?
Yes, Your Worship and my fellow council members. One of the ways to break this down, this draw down, and make it easy, in my opinion, is to ask yourself really what's the right thing to do, and guide the community in that direction by doing your homework and putting in due diligence. This proposal's been before us for over a year now. There's been opportunities at several meetings to check on the progress of the development. One of the big issues I've heard when I was standing for election is affordability in this community. Housing affordability is a big one that I hear a lot. I do feel that we are long overdue for increasing our stock of new housing, as well as having a different variety of housing types, and I feel that this project will achieve that. I've also spent over the years a lot of times getting to understand a bit better where planners are at, where the future of housing stock is at. The direction is obviously towards higher density, more walkable communities and community hubs, which is something that is created through this development. I think this is the right direction for the community when I think, holistically for the community. However, today, when we're reading through all the public submissions and hearing from residents, I can break it down into two issues that, if I could, the first one, I think in my mind is an uncomfortableness with the level of vacation rentals that are permitted in documents before us. And the second one is density. Some people object to having nothing other than R1, but a lot of people say this is a good proposal, or this is too much for the area. So I guess my question for consideration for council is, what are our options for addressing this issue, if that is something that's up to the council?
Mr. Strigan, do you have any comments on questions from Councilor Wynn?
Your Worship, if council wishes to make amendments to the bylaw to reduce density or reduce uses, they have that ability without triggering a second public hearing. If they wish to, it's
What he's saying is that council has things that it can do to reduce density or reduce uses without going through another public hearing. And I'm assuming you're talking about section Covenant 219?
Your Worship, if there was a desire to reduce the areas or the numbers of vacation rentals, there could be a company registry on title to reduce that use or put a percentage of units that could have that use for portions of conservation.
Is there any other comments from council? Councilor Nixon.
Your Worship, I'm very interested in following up on what Mr. Strachan is guiding us to. We've heard tonight that there's a real concern with vacation rentals. And I'm not sure what that number should be and what the zone should be. Looking to the other councilors for ideas on that.
Just a point of order is talking about the Section 219 covenant and restricting, if that was the way the council wanted to go, what it would be doing is that if there's a motion on the floor to create the CD 17 zone in third reading, there's another motion after that, you could then introduce the covenant 219 if it's so desired, without changing what's already on the table.
Correct, Your Worship, you would be adding an additional condition that would be required to be satisfied prior to adoption of the bylaw.
Yes, I understand.
Is there any other comments from the council? Motion is to third reading on the CD 17 zone. All those in favor? Motion is carried. There is another motion on the that's there. If somebody is so inclined to make that motion.
Your Worship, I make a motion that zoning amendment bylaw 2103 be the bylaw to amend the zoning designation of the south half of the northeast chapter, quarter of section 23, township 23, range 2, west of the 6th meridian, Kootenai district, except what's included in plans 4526, 5352, 6130, 7318, 7421, 7449, 8287, 8445, NEP 75340, NEP 77921, NEP 80457, and NEP 8778. Lot A, Section 23, Township 23, Range 2, west of the 6th Meridian, Kootenai District, NEP 77921, from Single Family Residential District R1, the Comprehensive Development Zone 17. And Lot Section 23, Township 23, Range 2, west of the 6th Meridian, Kootenai District Plan 7421 from Rural Residential 60 Hectare District RR 60 to Comprehensive Development Zone 17.
Be read for third. Motion by Councillor Saul, seconded by Councillor English. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Does anybody want to make any kind of motion on this section, covenant 219?
Can I ask Your Worship whether or not that motion can be brought forward at a later time, when we have some time to understand it a bit better and consider it a bit more? As to exactly what the nature of the motion would be?
I guess my short answer is yes. So we could bring this covenant 219 at any time that council wants.
If you wish, council can direct staff to prepare a report to bring back to council for discussion.
And I think just for the public, the point is with the covenant 219 is that the council has the power to restrict whatever that it wants on the site, whether it's number of units or number of vacation rentals. If future councils or this council changes and wants to change that amount of that designation, you could do that without going through a public hearing, which is what we're doing right now. So that's the so. And the other thing is that this council cannot bind future councils from doing whatever it feels that it's necessary to do as well. Okay? So I think a motion to have staff look at options on the covenant 219. Councillor Nixon, seconded by Councillor Brothers. Is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Councillor Sullivan, Councillor English, all in favor? Motion's carried. And again, thank you everyone for